Here's some ideas you never heard before. Some business secret weapons that we have in store. It's Laura Hodgson, NowCorp CEO, with some action ideas to help your company grow.
Hi, I'm Laura Hodgson, President and CEO of NowCorp. Welcome to the Secret Weapon for Success podcast. We're here today with Sarah Rettker from the Georgia Chamber of Commerce. And Sarah, you are the Vice President of Investor Engagement.
That's correct.
And
yes.
So investors are all of the businesses that are members of or investors in the Georgia Chamber. Is that
That's correct. So at the Georgia Chamber, we represent kind of the voice for business. Currently, we reach about 47,000 businesses across the state of Georgia. So all four corners, over 500 industry sectors, a lot of great conversation along the way. And so our team is responsible for a lot of that fulfillment in membership and a lot of the conversations and the candid conversations around what businesses really need to grow and to keep Georgia competitive.
So if ever there was a person with their pulse on the state of business, it would be you.
I work every day to hope and pray that it is me. But yes, we have a lot of really great insight into what business leaders are needing just to thrive and to grow and to stay competitive.
So my goal is, in working with small businesses, I always have businesses say, I get the same old. I get the advice from everybody, which is the same old advice that you can get on the back of the SBA catalog or you can get on, any webinar. But what are those true sort of secrets of success that you hear from businesses that are like, wow, why didn't anybody ever tell me that? And so that's really what we focus on the podcast. And today I wanted to really talk about kind of where we are in the economy, because more and more I'm hearing businesses, we're sort of in limbo right now.
Right.
And so it's this, everything's going great. So I want to be optimistic, but there's also this undertone of, but what if? What if things slow down? What if things change? What are you hearing businesses in Georgia talking about? And have you heard any sort of unique perspectives on how they're preparing for that?
So I have to say, it's great to be here talking to you today. We are in this unprecedented future of business right now, which is exciting and also daunting at the same time. So a lot of our conversations, specifically with small business owners, are a lot about how to find your edge. It used to be in the digital era, everyone went on the internet. And that was it. Everyone was globally accessible. They were on the internet. They could target different customers, sell different products. And then everyone got on the internet. And so it was like, okay, how do you find your competitive edge in this post-digital era where everyone's been there and done that? What we've seen in Georgia specifically is that a lot of the conversation is around how we are a great state to do business. It doesn't cost a lot to start a business here. There's great tax incentives in place. We have a diverse marketplace from Atlanta and kind of melding out into all four corners of the state. We have so many different industry sectors represented. And so we've had a lot of growth and we've had a lot of job creation and we're really excited about it. But at the same time, there's this looming new Georgia economy coming down the track of we don't know what's next. And you watch the news, read the newspaper, and a lot of people are using the R word saying, is there a recession coming? What's happening next? And I think our job at the Chamber is to make sure that we're having that preparedness conversation. So you can protect and prepare your business for anything that's coming to a head, but also still being able to tell that story of businesses and say, this is the story of the Georgia business. These people are authentic to the state where we're from. If that's buying local and supporting your local store, then that's the method we're going to use. If that's helping you export, then we're going to try to, help you navigate different trade negotiations and different exporting rules and regulations to help you get there. A lot of the conversation has stemmed from head scratching and what is the message?
Right.
And I just think we don't know yet.
Well, I think you're right. It's not that we haven't had recessions or downturns before, but I think they've had different signals.
Right.
And now it's compared to such a growth of optimism and such fruitful development over the last several years. It's hard to reconcile this. I'm nervous, but everything is so awesome right now.
Right.
And so you want to take advantage of the awesome without, sort of missing the what if. And one of the things that's interesting that we've seen with a lot of our clients is this need to scenario plan. So they don't want to stop taking advantage of the awesome, but they also don't want to be caught blind.
Right.
And so, we've been working with folks on things like, if there were to be a slowdown, what are the things you would tweak? So for example, if your business has a lot of fixed cost in it, are there ways you can turn those fixed costs into variable costs? Because that at least gives you the flexibility. And if something bad doesn't happen, you're fine. But if something bad does happen, you can dial things back. Or how do I look at my business and, maybe I've been loading up on debt because I've been buying equipment or I've been, taking out lines of credit. Are there ways that I can get some of that debt off my balance sheet so that if there were a downturn, I'm in a better position to access capital when it becomes harder to access? So, as we think about the challenges in a downturn, there's obviously access to capital. As you mentioned, there's access to customers. And so it sounds like a lot of what you're also doing is helping people think differently about where they might find customers, because you mentioned exports.
Right.
I would bet a lot of small businesses don't wake up and think, I should export.
Exactly.
So how do you help them think about this new world, this new Georgia economy, which may extend way beyond Georgia?
Correct.
And how do you take advantage of that?
So a lot of our conversation is about diversifying the marketplace and your consumer. And so especially for a small business who gets into, a specific industry sector, launching a specific product, which you're very familiar about, you think, okay, this is my target consumer. But then as your business evolves and you start realizing that maybe you only rely on 4 to 5 different consumers out there or 4 to 5 different clients, if a downturn were to happen, what would happen to your livelihood if 3 of those dropped?
Right.
And so a lot of that is just a shift in perspective and educating people on who else is out there.
Right.
There are so many different people and just different demographics and different segmentations in the state of Georgia just over the last 6 years of growth.
Right.
That there are many other people who can be a target consumer that you're just not necessarily thinking of. And in the same vein, even exposing people to the world of government contracting and people who will continue to buy during a downturn.
Right.
And what are those industries and what is that target market? So I think a lot of that is just exposure and knowledge as to the people who are out there and accessible.
Right. Well, and I think the key word that you just used was diversification, and you can really apply that to your whole business, because if your business has one source of customers, that's risky. Right. If you have one source of capital, that's risky.
Right.
If you have one source of information, that's risky. One source of maybe data or technology, that's risky. So it would be a great sort of secret weapon.
Correct.
For a small business to, while things are going well, step back and say, where do I have redundancy or diversity and where do I not? Because if you have a single source of anything, that could be risky for you.
Exactly. And I think that's a lot, especially even as just the diversity and inclusion conversation is coming up in business. It's been such an easy marriage of that conversation of you really do need to have different people in your network and within your organization who can think differently, because you're only going to succeed. And if that means just reaching a different consumer market, wonderful.
Right.
If that means diversity of thought and diversity of systems, even better.
Well, even diversity of sources of employees, because you see a lot of businesses that they hire everybody out of maybe one job training program or one university or one local community college, and if for whatever reason that market starts to get more competitive or dries up in any way, you're kind of stuck. And we hear that a lot. There's a lot of industries that are struggling to find good workers because they've probably only had one source of workers coming in. And so how do they diversify that?
Exactly. It's a constant conversation around Georgia, and I think as people realize all that Georgia has to offer, and the story that's not just Atlanta is so important, and so near and dear to our hearts as we continue to spread the message of business.
Well, and I agree with you. I think a lot of times we try to compare ourselves to other markets, and you can look at other states or other regions and say, wow, they're the home of software, they're the home of healthcare. And so we keep trying to find what our thing is. And I think our thing is that we have no thing.
Right.
Because we have lots of things.
We have so many things.
And
who doesn't want to be in the state with so many things?
Right, because you have natural diversification.
Exactly.
And so I really do think that in this new economy where diversification is so important, both in terms of people and capital and customers and processes, being in a state whose economy naturally gives you that diversification is huge.
Right. I agree, especially in the tiny communities that we see in Georgia that really rely on the one or two storefronts that they have.
Right.
You know, how great is it if you're also accessible to people outside of that community? So if in a time where you are in a downturn,
Sure.
you don't have to close your doors and
Yep.
have that community also suffer.
There could be another market that's not as much in a downturn and they're still purchasing and you can now sell to them.
So much conversation to have around that.
Absolutely.
And it's just the joy of what I do every day.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for joining us. And just to summarize, I think the real key here, if your business is enjoying a great time of growth, which a lot of businesses are, now is actually the time. Don't wait until that growth starts to slow, but now is the time to step back and maybe look at your business and see where you don't have diversity, you don't have redundancy, you have a single source. And if you can identify those places, it's a great time to go work with your local chamber or work with the other resources in your community to identify additional places you can sell your goods or access capital or access employees or information so that you're ready if and when there is a turn. So that is an awesome secret weapon for success, and we hope that you will apply that and benefit from it in the coming months. And we hope that you'll join us next time on Secret Weapons for Success. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us today. For more Secret Weapons podcasts, please join us at nowcorp.com.